Hello everyone, and welcome to another Top 5 Records video, and today I'm going to be counting down the 50 best albums from 1969. And it is, even with 50 albums, a tough list because I have never put so many qualifying albums aside. But without further ado, I'm gonna kick off the list with this one. And what better way to kick off than with Jefferson Airplane Volunteers? At number 50 in this top 50. Volunteers is not as brilliant as the well known masterpiece Surrealistic Pillow by Jefferson Airplane, but nevertheless, this is a good album. It has the sense of hippie freedom, liberty all over it. It's a gorgeous late 60s album and it has such a great vibe. If you find a copy, and I was lucky enough to find one a couple of months ago when I was in San Francisco in near mint first American pressing for just $5. Gotta love the States. Um, well, if you find one, be sure to check out the song Wooden Ships. This is a great cover. And the man who wrote the song is, as a matter of fact, present here. David Crosby's on this album. Jerry Garcia is here. Stephen Stills is working on this album. Man, you are in some great 60s company with Volunteers. At number 50. At number 49, the Pentangle Basket of Light. I'm not sure if a lot of the viewers are aware of this album. I only know of its existence because of the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. And this is a weird kind of British folk music. Weird in a sense, it takes me back to the Middle Ages, and I love that. It also has some great names of British folk working on it. For example, John Renbourn. John Renbourn, who also made the beautiful album Sir, author of. It's a very long title. It's just a joke, but Renbourn's brilliant. Also, that's what's so amazing. Um, Bert Jansch, Jansch. I hope I pronounce it right. Bert Jansch. This man is amazing. I love his first solo album. I love his work here. This is one of the great British folk albums, and I'm sure it will transfer you to the dark ages. At number 49, the Pentangle Basket of Light. At 48, we have been moving from San Francisco to the UK, and now we're going to The Hague in the Netherlands. And I'm Dutch, so I gotta pay tribute to a Dutch band. Nevertheless, its place in this list is deserved. Living Blues with Hell's Session. Now, if you are a blues fan, be sure to check this out. The occasions in which a white blues band really has a raw edge are, in my opinion, rare. But here, you can hear a bunch of guys finding out the sound, the rawness, a sore throat, and a shrieking voice. It is a nice, rough album, and they are experimenting here. Some of the songs were even recorded in a bathroom just for the right reverb. You get drums played by Cesar Zuiderwijk, who later came to join the Golden Earring. Now, the Golden Earring is, of course, a big name in the world of music. Living Blues, sadly, is not, even here in the Netherlands, they are not very big, but they are in the world of blues. This is for the music lovers. And I assume everyone watching this channel is a music lover. So, at number 48, Living Blues, Hell's Session. At number 47, Roberta Flack, First Take. Now, Roberta Flack's voice is something you've got to experience, and she is just brilliant on this record. A lot of great songs, a lot of songs also arranged by her. A lot of covers. I'm seeing Donny Hathaway. What I'm mostly impressed by is her rendition of Hey, That's No Way to Say Goodbye, the Leonard Cohen song. If you find this one, and it's not expensive, I found it for about $5, and it's the first American pressing and good quality, you'll have a blast. And with the reference to Leonard Cohen, obviously that's not the only time I'm gonna reference Leonard Cohen in this video. So be sure to stay tuned. At number 46, Bob Dylan, Nashville Skyline. Now, in 1969, it were rural times. As a matter of fact, just as we are living in rural times these days. And everybody was looking at Bob Dylan to try and find, what's he gonna say? You know, this is the big poet. This is the big opinionated guy. What's he gonna say? And Bob Dylan's answer is, I'm gonna sit in the sun under a tree and I'm gonna write some country songs. Which is not the answer people expected. But it's one heck of an answer. I mean, this may be a simple album, but try and write beautiful, simple songs like on here. Opening with an older song of Dylan, but in a new rendition, Girl from the North Country, with Johnny Cash. I mean, the combination of those voices is just wonderful. After that, we get songs like Nashville Skyline Rag, which is good. To be alone with you, I threw it all away. Peggy Day, lay, lay. And one of my favorites, Tonight I'll be staying here with you. It's so sweet. It's so gorgeous. You have never heard Dylan sing like this. As a matter of fact, he quit smoking, and he started smoking afterwards. So his voice is unique, but the intimacy and the calm and the ease he creates is also pretty unique for Dylan. So you gotta check it out. At number 46, Nashville Skyline. At number 45, from total chill to total energy, MC5, Kick Out the Jams. One of the best, most impressive live albums ever. MC5 in those days was touring with, as a supporting act, the Stooges, with, of course, Iggy Pop's early band. And the thing is, when Iggy Pop's supporting you, how do you top that energy? Right now, it might be unimaginable how to do that. I saw Iggy Pop about 2 or 3 years ago, and even in his late 70s, the man is still a powerhouse. How do you top that? Well, back in the days, MC5 was the answer. And if Iggy Pop is the godfather of punk rock, they are the godmothers of punk rock. Whew. What an energy. What a vibe. If you find a copy, go ahead. You'll love it. At number 45, MC5, Kick Out the Jams. Number 44, another British folk album. And actually, perhaps I should have put 2 in there, because this band, Fairport Convention, made 2 great albums in 1969. This is Unhalfabricking, but they also made Leaf and Leech. Both of them are incredible, lovely albums with their own unique atmosphere. This has songs by Richard Thompson. I think Richard Thompson is a very interesting songwriter who's been doing a lot of great work also after Fairport Convention, and at the same time he was present at a lot of places. This record also has some Bob Dylan songs which were not yet made public because they heard them on the Basement tapes, which Bob Dylan did with the band, and which were only officially released in 1975, but which were a popular bootleg at the time. This record is just incredible. At number 44, Fairport Convention. At 43, it's time for one of the big names, Fleetwood Mac, but not the Fleetwood Mac we know from their Puppy area, and I love their Puppy area as well. Pop. Now it sounds like I'm talking about dogs. Pop area. This is the blues rock area, and this is nice. Great, impressive blues rock. Then play on. At number 43, At number 42, back to the United States again. And I just recently, when I was in San Francisco again, found a first US near mint pressing. And man, this blows away a lot of the audiophile represses. I have a one step here, a mobile fidelity sound lab, one step, and this blows it clean off. Such a beautiful sound. Blood, Sweat, and Tears makes also a unique sound. I mean, the jazz influences, the big band. I mean, you got Al Cooper playing here. What do you expect? This is an incredible band and a beautiful album. At number 42, Blood, Sweat, and Tears with their self-titled first album. Now at number 41, I'm gonna put a record that is, I think it deserves its right place in music history, and it hasn't gotten that yet. It is The Doors' The Soft Parade. This is often being put down as the worst album of The Doors with Jim Morrison, and I don't think it's fair to say that, although, of course, all the Jim Morrison The Doors albums have very high quality. But back in the day, people were talking about it as if they were selling their souls, but they were obviously just inspired by avant-garde and psychedelic rock. They are trying out new sounds here. And you get songs like Tell All the People, which is great, Touch Me, and for me, the highlight is the last song, the 8-minute 40, The Soft Parade. And it's an epic in the same way you get a song like The End. But they are trying to reinvent themselves here. And as a band, they are so good. They can be funky. They can be avant-garde. And The Soft Parade is a pearl. Honestly, this is among the best albums of 1969. This deserves its credit. And if you disagree, please give it another spin. Give it another spin in good quality. I found the first US copy, which just blew me away. At number 41, The Doors, The Soft Parade. The Soft Parade is here to stay. Love that. We're moving forward to number 40. And another Dutch edition here. A Dutch edition that I was not very much aware of until people on this channel started asking me, well, you're from the Netherlands. Why do you never talk about Group 1850 and their album Paradise now? Because this is a collector's item, for example, in the United States. And honestly, here in the Netherlands, only music geeks are talking about it. They were not a big band. So, knowing nothing, hearing other people talk about a Dutch band, I bought this about half a year ago, and I was pleased. The sound of this record is so ultimately 60s. In a certain sense, the quality of the sound is so down to earth, so that you hear that just a bunch of long-haired guys who are very skillful and crafted at their instruments are going into the psychedelic highs, if you know what I mean. Because there is this earthliness in the way it's recorded. Beautiful recording, by the way. And then you hear people go bizarre. It reminds me a bit of, what's that band that Tarantino uses so often? I have them here, the Vanilla Fudge. They remind me somewhat of Vanilla Fudge. But then again, they are unique and in another way so typical, lovely, and inventive of the time. Paradise Now is a treasure. And here in the Netherlands, we should start to honor our heroes, even if they are unknown. So let's change the unknown thing about it. At number 40, Group 1850 with Paradise Now. At number 39, and now for something completely different, Dusty Springfield with Dusty in Memphis. This is Dusty Springfield perhaps at her best. It's an epic record with incredible songs. And this is a genre that I not often put in here. I'm not sure how to pronounce this as an album, as a genre. Is it vocal jazz? No. It has somewhat a typical American slick pop sound of the 60s, but you can be good at that. And Dusty Springfield is it, and Dusty in Memphis is as well. Son of a Preacher Man, it's here. That's the tone of this record. So, at number 39, Dusty in Memphis. I'm gonna move back to San Francisco again with this incredible live album, The Grateful Dead, with their live album, Live Undead. No, Live Dead, not Undead. Grateful Dead, Live Dead. And there's a slash in there somewhere. Now, this is a different side of the Grateful Dead. If you imagine the studio band, they are, well behaved. You know, there's a certain calmness in their studio recordings. I love their studio albums. And live, it is just a thrill of another level. One of the most epic live recordings is on this album. Just a live recording of all time. The way Dark Star is done here. Oh, you're gonna love it. At 38, Live Dead by the Grateful Dead. 37, it's time for some soul funk. Cloud 9 by the Temptations. And it took me quite some while to find this because clearly here in the Netherlands it wasn't sold that often. And I cannot imagine why, because this is just the smoothest, most gorgeous, well played, craftfully made soul funk album. It is, the sum of its parts is so excellent that a certain new texture of sound arises that is just, listen to I Heard It Through the Grapevine on this album. It's a masterpiece. At 37, Cloud 9 by the Temptations. Back to the UK again. As a matter of fact, this, I'm not sure, no, this is not even the UK. No, it's Ireland. It's Taste with their first self-titled album, Taste. And we're talking about Rory Gallagher's first band, his first trio, as a matter of fact. They made 2 albums. The second album is also very good. And this is blues rock on a different level than we get to know from other bands in those days, at least other white bands in those days. Eric Clapton and John Mayall, though incredible, of course, or even Paul Rodgers with Bad Company or Free. They do, Paul Rodgers does have a roughness there, but Taste on a blues rock level goes all out. Rory Gallagher here is a roaring blues maniac. His guitar playing, his screaming vocals almost, the beautiful raspy voice. It's one hell of a debut. At number 36, Taste with their self-titled first album. At 35, a little bit lower, but in the UK, this is Bowie with Space Oddity. Some people do not give this record the credit that it deserves, as if Space Oddity is the best song on this album. And yeah, Space Oddity is one of Bowie's best songs. I mean, the way it's written, the way it's sung, the recording is also very good, and you'll hear it on his album. But I don't even think it's the best song on the album. This record has bookends, starting with Space Oddity and ending with one of the biggest Bowie epics, as a matter of fact, Memory of a Free Festival. It starts so slow and subtle, and then it builds to a euphoria of summer, festival, freedom. I think there are a handful of songs that contain this level of authentic freedom as memory of a free festival. There are other great songs as well. Unwashed and Somewhat Slightly Dazed is a nice song. Janine is nice. Letter to Hermione and A Wild Eyed Boy from Freak Loud, which he played later on during the Ziggy Stardust shows, is also good. This is a very good Bowie album. At 35, Space Oddity. I'm gonna go to 34. And from one folk album, because that was mostly folk Bowie, we're moving towards grand pop epic, the Bee Gees' Odessa. And I'm holding here the German box, which contains the two records here. It's a double album. It smells very fishy. This one has a bit of the, how do you say this, grandma's basement vibes. Nevertheless, I love this box because although I couldn't easily find this album, I really wanted to find it because it is in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. And the Bee Gees have somewhat of a bad connotation because of the late 70s disco era. A lot of people were against the disco. I don't understand, but I wasn't there. And the Bee Gees were just heroes of that era, sometimes with 4 or 5 songs at the same time in the charts. Nevertheless, late 60s, they were not making disco. Disco didn't exist. They were making epic, almost opera-like pop records. And this one, Odessa, might even be their best. If you are into very pure, clean vocals with inventive melodies, nevertheless catchy, give Odessa a try. Because this is a hidden secret. It's a gem of an opera, a pop opera. And it's not the only opera in this list. But I guess a lot of people already figured that out. At 34, Bee Gees' Odessa. At 33, Moby Grape, 69. I started this list off with some San Francisco, Jefferson Airplane, later on Grateful Dead, and I was working on a documentary screenplay with a Dutch journalist who has been working since the 60s. And he said, I don't dig that San Francisco vibe. Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane. He said that he never liked them. But there was one band. They had the worst luck in the world, but they were the most skillfully, craftfully developed musicians. And he saw them play, and he said, if you ever find an album of Moby Grape, buy it. Preferably the 60s stuff. Buy it. Because it is so skillful developed rock music. It is so good. You're going to love it. And then I found this one. This was the first record of Moby Grape I found. And it's incredible. It blows you away. Moby Grape, 69. At the number 33. And we're moving to 32. It's time for a old rock and roll legend who was reinventing himself. Elvis Presley with From Elvis in Memphis. Be sure to check this out because it's not just any Elvis Presley album. A lot of these Elvis albums have been recorded here and there, and sometimes I wouldn't call them compilations, but they lack a coherent feel. There were only 2 albums for which he went into the studio to get a coherent studio album. And From Elvis in Memphis is one of those. And here he is reaching out for the soul influence. And Elvis Presley. Obviously, there's rock and roll influences there. But Elvis going on a more soulful road. It is a lovely album. Highlight for me might be the last song, In the Ghetto. Yeah, and by the way, if you find this, the Speaker's Corner version, it shouldn't be too expensive, $30. A lot better than the $150 Mobile Fidelity 1-step. This is the true audiophile copy. Great album. At number 32, Elvis Presley from Elvis in Memphis. The next record I do have behind me, but I'm not going to show it because the cover contains nudity. Um, it is an Eric Clapton album, or as a matter of fact, the band Blind Faith. I've been talking about white blues here on this channel and also in this video. There are moments when Eric Clapton really nailed it, and Blind Faith is a heavy, lovable blues rock album. I found the first British pressing, and it had such a deep, warm sound. It really got me connected and really got me convinced that this is one of the best things Eric Clapton has done. And Eric Clapton has done a lot and worked with a lot of great musicians and on a lot of great albums. Blind Faith is at the top there. 31, Blind Faith. And we're moving forward to number 30. And right now, I mean, we're getting in territory where the nuances of quality are a bit vague, honestly. At so many different territories, artists were finding new ways to express themselves and make new sounds. And some of these artists in 1969 had the highlight of their creative peak. And they were amongst the best artists. So listing and numbering is going to become tougher and tougher. But I'm going to continue. And I stand behind my choices. At 30, Santana. And though I am not a big fan of the Santana live shows or live recordings, their first album, his debut, especially on the first American pressing, ooh, this is good. Full, warm, inviting, brilliant guitar playing, brilliant percussion. What an album. At number 30, Santana with the self-titled album Santana. 29, Joni Mitchell, Clouds. Why Clouds? Well, I think this is among the best things that Joni Mitchell has made, and Joni Mitchell's done a lot of great albums. Here she is so fragile, pure, and these complicated songs, they sound so inviting. As a matter of fact, I think this is one of her most atmospheric, inviting albums. Ending off with that gorgeous song, Both Sides Now, which she later on re-recorded and then became very well known through the film Love Actually. Here is a much younger version, and though I love the re-recording, I also enjoy what she's doing on this first one. Master. 29, Clouds by Joni Mitchell. 28, another incredible singer-songwriter, Leonard Cohen with Songs from a Room. And Discover, though later on he makes a nod to Discover when he actually does somewhat the same thing, but then in black for You Want It Darker. This was for me my first Leonard Cohen album. And there is a hypnotic quality to the combination of his guitar playing and the calm in there, and then the confidence of his voice. And just the confidence of his voice giving you the most poetic lyrics. This record opens with Bird on a Wire. One of the best lyrics ever written, one of the best songs ever. As a matter of fact, Chris Christopherson wants the lyrics on his gravestone. Like a bird on a wire, like a true midnight choir, I have tried in my way to be free. Moving forward, 27. What I have here is Creedence Clearwater Revival with the album Green River. Now they are strong here. John Fogerty found himself a sound that is just like a punch in the face. And there are so many great songs here. The title track, for example. But side 2 opens with one of my favorites, Bad Moon Rising. And the first time I became aware of the song was during the film An American Werewolf in London, where there is this beautiful transfiguration scene with this song on. And I've always wondered. It's well, at the time when I heard it, it was at least 40 years old. It has a old quality to it, but then again, it's so daring, adventurous, fresh, and raw that I could not imagine coming from the 60s. So there's this ambiguity to what it sounds like. And that sound is actually the sheer power of John Fogerty and Creedence Clearwater Revival. That's not one of the best band names for a Dutch guy. We actually mostly say CCR, and then people know what you mean, because obviously they are well known. At number 27, CCR, Green River. 26, The Flying Burrito Brothers, The Gilded Palace of Sin. This album is a major step in the world of country rock. You might even suggest that Graham Parsons, with his band, the Flying Burrito Brothers, invented country rock here. Though, of course, he was also working with the Byrds and later on did amazing work as a solo artist. He is country royalty. And if you listen to this album, for example, a song like Sin City or Dark End of the Street, you'll understand why he is country royalty. You know who was one of the biggest influences on Keith Richards? Graham Parsons. Graham Parsons. Love it. At 26. Now we're halfway there. At 25, Isaac Hayes, Hot Buttered Soul. It's hard to explain why this is so good. It's almost as if the inventiveness of the music, the way he's playing, the way it's recorded, the way he's singing. I mean, that strong, gorgeous voice. It's as if the sound makes a new texture. It somewhat reminds me of The Temptations. It's a combination of recording technique and a high level of skill. Well, same counts, for Isaac Hayes. Hot Buttered Soul on 25. Then, Crosby, Stills, and Nash with their first self-titled album, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Now, this is the fourth or fifth copy that I found. I've listened to German copies, British copies, and this first American one just beats all the non-audiophile reissues, because the recent one by Acoustic Sound Series, none of the Acoustic Sound Series, Analog Productions on 45, that even smokes this one. But this, it sounds so good. Crosby, Stills, and Nash just have voices that blend in brilliantly, and in this version I have a beautiful inner. It's not an inner sleeve. It's just well, a track listing inside here. Opening with Sweet Judy Blue Eyes. Love that song. Written by Stephen Stills, as he had some problems after a relationship. Not the only great song here, a lot of great songs, and also Wooden Ships again. Which one is better, Jefferson Airplane version or the Crosby, Stills, Nash? No, I'm not going to respond that. You can answer below. What do you think? Crosby, Stills, and Nash or Jefferson Airplane on Wooden Ships? At 24, Crosby, Stills, and Nash with their self-titled album. 23, a soundtrack nevertheless. Because here I have C'era una volta il West, Once Upon a Time in the West by Ennio Morricone. The challenge with a lot of these soundtrack albums is, do they exist outside of the film? Because basically, I make films, and the common idea amongst composers is that you should not be aware of the music. I disagree. I think you can be aware of the music. It just cannot become false sentiment. The music can be grand. The music is just as much part of the film as the camera work is, or the actors are. And in the case of Morricone, he got such a big part in the way that this was made and edited, because Sergio Leone, he edited with the music there. And in a certain way, if you look at the way it sets the mood, the way the music makes the atmosphere, he's almost as important as the writers here. And now the writers here are Leone himself with Bernardo Bertolucci and Dario Argento. Um, I mean, some of the biggest Italian directors, not just of the time, but ever. And Morricone stands on that league as a writer of the film. Besides that, he made a soundtrack that I already knew so well even before I saw the film. These themes, they live for themselves. There's a vocalise here that is just my favorite vocalise. A masterpiece at 23. Ennio Morricone is Once Upon a Time in the West. And then we go to 22. This couldn't be further away from Morricone. The Stooges with their first self-titled album. Of course, here at the front, Iggy Pop. This record is punk. As a matter of fact, they were so punk live that people at Elektra did not know who could actually produce them. How could you contain the sheer energy of the Stooges on a record? So they asked the most avant-garde producer and musician at the time, John Kill, to produce it, and he succeeded. Opening of 1969, and then you're gonna hear "I Want to Be Your Dog," which is nice jamming. It's it's almost as if you can hear the change. The change of the dog. Side 2, no fun. My babe, no fun. No fun to hang around with you. Yeah, the godfather of punk. And these lyrics are smarter than you think. They are so simple, but it's on a different level than the Ramones. I love the Ramones. The songwriting here. The Stooges at number 22. And then we have at number 21 The Band with their second album, which was their self-titled album, The Band. Mostly a Canadian band, but if you listen to the stories they are telling, seldom does an album sound more American. There is perhaps one album that I think sounds more American, and I actually have that in this list because it's also from 1969. The lyrics. It's in the lyrics, but it's also in the way it sounds. It's in the way it's recorded. Opening with Across the Great Divide, which is, just that melody. Across the Great Divide, and a rag, mama rag, and the night they drove old Dixie down up on Crickle Creek. So many incredible lyrics and melodies. Robbie Robertson was such a skillful melody maker. And this one, their second album, I think it's my favorite The Band album. At 21, The Band's The Band. 1 second, I have to readjust the sound. Don't worry. Yes. And we continue. At number 20, we're going to go for some full-blown country with Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash at San Quentin. Now, he did 2 live albums in prison, and both of them are mesmerizingly good. This one, I really love the cover on this one, but the entirety of this album. The thing is, an audience also changes a record or any common experience, a film, a theatrical performance. And the way Johnny Cash plays his songs in front of, inmates, you notice when they cheer that something is different, that they recognize other elements. So during that process, Johnny Cash himself becomes more of an inmate, more of a convict. And he really is a country outlaw on this one. Opening with Wanted Man, great song. I Walk the Line, I love that song. And then at side two, the most magical thing happens. We see San Quentin twice because he wrote the song San Quentin specifically for this occasion. And I believe this was the record where they had this dialogue with the ward who asked him not to remind them that they were in prison. Johnny Cash said, "You think they will forget they are?" And that's the idea. It's better to recognize it, and they'll feel more liberated if their emotions are recognized. And the sound of the audience when they heard the song San Quentin, opening with San Quentin, you've been living hell to me, and you just hear it comes out of their guts, the roar, the it's fantastic. So it's so good they play it again, and they left it on the album 2 times San Quentin. And you might think, isn't that too much? No, it's not. It belongs there because the intensity the second time after you've heard the anticipation of the first time, it's just iconic. And then A Boy Named Sue, also one of his best songs. Peace in the Valley, ending with Folsom Prison Blues. It's a masterpiece. At 20, Johnny Cash at San Quentin. Number 19, the first jazz album. First jazz album. I don't know why. There are so many great jazz albums. But this is the first one. Pharoah Sanders with the album Karma. This is the release done by the Acoustic Sound series by Analog Productions. And this is one incredible pressing. If you haven't heard the album, this is not too expensive and you will get an audiophile treatment that is mesmerizing. It took me some time to get into it, but right now, when it starts to stick, Pharoah Sanders' Karma is really something to treasure. At number 19, Pharoah Sanders' Karma. At number 18, moving to the countryside with one of the best country albums ever. Can also say that about San Quentin, by the way. San Quentin is also one of the best country albums ever. And this is one of the more sophisticated country albums. And country doesn't have to be sophisticated. Any music has to be sophisticated, but sometimes it can reach something new. And so does Townes Van Zandt, because he made this wonderful album, Our Mother, the Mountain. And I've been listening to a repress of this and already loved it. I love that repress of a couple of years ago, but now I have a 70s analog repress, the first repress of this album, done by Tomato, and it's close to my heart. Last summer, I've been filming on a tour through the Alps, and when I was in the Alps, I played Our Mother, the Mountain through my headphones, and it's just magic. These songs, the moment the needle hits the vinyl, when you put it on, there is magic. There's magic in these grooves. Be here to love me. It's so good. Kathleen is so gorgeous. She came and she touched me. Our Mother, the Mountain. Second Lover song. At this time, 1969, Townes Van Zandt was more prolific than the Beatles. Yeah, in himself. I mean, the skill of his writing, the way he wrote what worked for himself with a guitar, what worked for an orchestra, it's beyond human conditions. And this is one of his best albums, Our Mother, the Mountain. Number 18. And number 17, second record of CCR here, Willie and the Poor Boys. I found this pressing, a first US pressing on the Blue Fantasy label, for just $15 in San Francisco, which I love because they were from the Bay Area, and to find this in the Bay Area. As a matter of fact, I didn't find it in San Francisco, but at Berkeley, at Rasputin. But they are from the Bay Area, and to find it there, it just makes me happy. Opening with Down on the Corner, great song. Ending off side one with Feeling Blue, and then side two opening with Fortunate Son. Oh, and then the roaring voice of John Fogerty. Unfortunate Son is just one of the many highlights because it ends up with Effigy, an epic, a masterpiece, masterpiece. In this at this moment, we are already in the territory of plain masterpieces, and it's just so bizarre to realize that one year, 1969, had so many masterpieces. I mean, all-time masterpieces. Some of the best artists at the top of their game. Again, Sly and the Family Stone, brilliant band, one of the best funk soul bands. Um, I had a dog before my current dog, a husky. I had a dachshund, and she was a music lover. There were bands she would refuse to listen to, like the Beatles. She would walk out of the room anytime the Beatles were on, or she would hear the voice of Paul McCartney. I mean, I love the Beatles, really. I love the Beatles. She just didn't. She only wanted the purest and the best funk bands. A friend of mine once asked me, well, what does she listen to? Well, Dr. John, the night, not per se the Night Tripper, but Right Way, Wrong Time. He said, well, that's with the Meters. And Sly and the Family Stone. I said, yeah, yeah. And that friend of mine was a musician. He said, those are the two tightest, most professional funk bands ever. The fact that your dog loves that, she has an ear for purely good, brilliant technical funk. And this was her favorite, and it's one of my favorites as well. Not only for the tightness, this record has meaning for human rights meaning. You know, the Black Lives Matter movement in those days. Stand. I mean, this is demanding what you're entitled to. Stand. On number 16. At number 15, back to the UK. Nick Drake, 5 Leaves Left. Nick Drake's life story is actually pretty much tragic. He became very famous after his death. He was very young when he died. He only recorded 3 full albums. None of them were successful. And there is this sad melancholy in his albums. And later on, right now, he's treasured among music fans worldwide. But he never experienced that. And this is his first album, 5 Leaves Left, and perhaps even his best album. The songwriting here is just so incredible. And the texture, the sound of his voice. Gorgeous. Opening with Time Has Taught Me, with Richard Thompson on electric guitar. I might give it a spin after this video. Yeah, I'm gonna put it aside. I really want to listen to it. At number 15, 5 Leaves Left. Now, for me, the most quintessential British band around, the Kings, with Arthur, or the Decline and Fall of the British Empire. Why is this so high? Well, the Kings in the late 60s were at their peak, songwriting wise, but also they were able to draw the listener near in their own, can I say, British melancholy? They did not want to be part of taking over the world with avant-garde or psychedelic rock. They turned inwards. They became even more British. And whenever I'm in London and suddenly a Kings song pops up, that just feels for me as if it's perfect. You know, it's perfect. The Kings in the UK, then everything seems to fit so well. Opening with Victoria, brilliant song. Love this album. Arthur, or Decline and Fall of the British Empire. At number 14,